And then knowing the time, that now is high time to awaken out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. Romans 13:11. Blessings and greetings to you, my father's children. As always, we're grateful and thankful for another opportunity to share the word of the Lord with you. I want to turn your attention to the book of Haggai, chapter 1. And I want to talk around a central theme here for a few minutes or just a minute or two. Considering your ways, or consider your ways. In this book, the prophet Haggai was given the directive from the Most High to bring to bear an issue concerning Judah. And he directed this word to Zerubbabel, who was the governor of Judah at the time, and as well as Joshua, who was the son of Josedek, the high priest. And what he essentially told them was that during the time when Judah should have been building the house of the Lord, instead of building the house of the Lord, they were doing their own thing. They were involving themselves in conspicuous consumption. And that's a term in economics, meaning you just consuming. He poses a question, a rhetorical question in verse 4, and he says, "Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste?" Talking about, how that is it okay to just dwell in your nice places of residences, but the house of the Lord goes waste, lies waste. He's telling them, your focus has been on you, but your mandate is to build the house of the Lord. So then he says in verse 5, "Now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways." And then he gets into it in verse 6, "Ye have sown much, but bring in little." You've done a whole lot of work, but you're not being fruitful. That's a telltale sign of a very sad spiritual condition. When you're working to be busy, you're doing a whole lot, but you're not bringing in a lot. In this church age that we live in, it's really cool to have a whole lot of ministries and a whole lot of things that we involve ourselves and say that, well, we're doing this and we're feeding these and we're doing this and that. But, there's a difference between effectiveness in ministry and just being busy. And oftentimes what we call being effective is really just being busy. And he says, so you're sowing a lot, but you're not bringing in much. And then he says, and goes on, says, you eat but have not enough. Another characteristic of carnal mindedness is that you're constantly consuming, you're constantly eating. You're not eating to really to even meet a hunger. You're eating for the sake of what you want, for taste's sake. And that's the problem in any kind of ministry where we do, when talking about building the house of the Lord. If we're not doing it to feed a need, if we're not doing it to address hunger, but we're rather doing it to fulfill a taste, if we're just eating for the sake of eating because it's time to eat instead of eating for the sake of building, then it's conspicuous consumption. You feel that you're fulfilling a taste, but you're not feeding your soul. Spiritual things feed you. Carnal things satisfy a taste. All right. So he goes on to say, you drink, but you're not filled. You clothe you, but none are warm. But there is none warm, and he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. So the nature of doing things for you and just to fulfill a sensual desire as opposed to an actual need. The danger in that is that you become redundant, you become fruitless, and you're not able to be effective in the things that you do. And the prophet is calling Judah out to consider their ways. Consider the fact that what you're doing has no effect in the spirit world. And that's where we find most of the church, quote unquote church, the condition of the quote unquote church today is that we're doing a whole lot, got a whole lot of resources. Everyone's on TV, everybody's got a Facebook, everybody's got this and that and the other. But how fruitful are we? Are people really getting saved, or are people joining churches? There's a difference. There's a difference. I remember a time when, in my personal ministry when I was frustrated that souls were not being saved, that people were being added to the church. People were going from church to church, a bunch of church hopping, and every church you see, there'd be a different pack of people who were at another church before, and everybody's just going this church cycles. But who out here is getting saved? Jesus said that the harvest is plenty and the laborers are few. See, the real laborers are not concerned with numbers; they're concerned with the condition, the spiritual condition of an individual. And a lot of people who are calling themselves saved really are just church members, but they're not really saved. And so we have a lot of people going to church, but not many that are being saved. And I think that's an outcome of us not considering our ways as believers, spiritual leaders. It's not considering their ways. And so Haggai comes to Judah to tell them, look, consider your ways. Consider your ways. It tells them in verse 8 to go up to the mountain, bring wood, and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, said the Lord. In other words, if you get to work on doing what I called you to do and not fulfilling your own needs and your own desires and your own, business plan, or your own whatever, if you get to the brass tacks of building the house of God, meaning going back to the foundations of truth and holiness, going back to the foundation of preaching against sin, going back to the foundation of prayer and staying steadfast before the Lord, if you're able to do those things, then God will come in and he will be glorified. And what I love about this is that this particular chapter, as I close, it later goes to say that the people, the leaders, Zerubbabel and Joshua, as well as the people, they all repented, and they turned their hearts, and their hearts were stirred up to do what the Most High commanded them to do. And then God confirmed in verse 13 through the messenger, through Haggai, that he was still with them, and the people's hearts were stirred, and they began to they came and did the work of the house of the Lord of hosts. And so do the work, consider your ways, and do the work of building God's house, and let's not be so focused on our own thing. All right, that's my time. I thank you for yours. I pray your blessings upon you. Continue to pray for me as I endeavor to do what thus said the Lord in this last hour. Be blessed. And until the next time, be blessed. God bless you.